Hello, hello. It is Kenyon here. This is technically a part two of a conversation, but whenever this comes out, it will probably be a standalone episode. This is just kind of a quick update kind of episode about what's going on with the Toronto Raptors and the draft, and also just the draft at large or anything interesting going around the league. We'll probably just kind of keep it mainly Toronto Raptors focused. So we're going to ignore some free agency news for now. I'm gonna just jump right into the stuff that you care about, and then most importantly, since we're coming up to the draft, I'm gonna get these guys big boards before I don't have time to get guys big boards. So, because we're running out of time. So since time is of the essence, I'm gonna just focus and just jump right in. There are a couple of interesting rumors that I'm going to say. Number one, we're going to talk about three and keep it to three right now. Toronto Raptors are apparently, there's a lot of smoke, a lot of rumors about the Toronto Raptors being in the mix to move up in the draft. So that's the first one. The second one, okay, and you know this actually we'll get into that in a second, but the other things has to do with the 2 point guards that we have covered. By the time this episode comes out, we will have definitely covered one. We might have covered two, because I know I have the other one on my computer somewhere. So Kobe Buffkin, recently it has come from, I think, Jonathan Giovanni, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, on the Zach Lowe
Gavoni.
Gavoni. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I think so. Yep.
On the Zach Lowe podcast, outlined that uh, the representative for Kobe Buffkin is really trying to focus on three different teams. One of those teams is the Toronto Raptors. The other teams are Utah Jazz, and the other team is going to be, I believe, the Washington Wizards. Now, what I find interesting about this is that Keontae George had two workouts and shut himself down, allegedly because there is a promise between those two teams, which would be Washington and Toronto. So, first of all, it seems like, because how Jonathan kind of outlined it, he said that lead guard role in those markets. Do you attribute anything to that, to maybe secretly what Toronto's thinking in terms of their own free agency stuff or about the draft? Does that make you feel more comfortable? Because in Masai's last presser at the very end, I'm not going to put that on screen because people can go look at it. It's around the 45-minute mark, just so people know. But he did say that we're not allergic to drafting a guard, and they wanted the right guard. So do you think that they found the right guard? I know Bobby mentioned a Raptorsy player, which is kind of really his way of speaking non-speak. But yeah, what do you guys think of those three rumors? Oh, and then I'll add a fourth one, which is apparently if Grady Dick is around, they are not afraid to draft him either. That is the other rumor. So yeah.
Um, I think, well, first of all, I'll do your first rumor about Raptors trading up. I think you meant into the top three. Is that correct? It's going to cost you Siakam to get into the top three now. It might have been
Yep.
OG about a month ago, but now with the new rumors of possibly Bradley Beal being on the market, and Portland might not like the contract, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind pairing him next to Dame for sure. Um, we've heard about Brandon Ingram, we've heard about Zion. You're in Siakam territory now. That's far beyond OG. So you're going to have to give up Siakam if you want a top three pick. And if you give up Siakam, you're more or less doing a rebuild to a vast degree. Um, if you were to do that, there's only one guy on this team who can give you over 22 a night, and that's Siakam. You're going to have to find some scoring somewhere else. That's for sure. So it's a major, major risk, and I don't think they'll do it. It's not Masai's style to do. So I love Scoot. We've been big proponents on this show. We love his talent. We love Brandon Miller too. I think what Brandon Miller could bring to this team from a fit perspective would look very good. But it's now going to cost you Siakam to do that for Scoot and or Brandon Miller.
We're not going to talk about what would be coming back. I'm not going to go and do cover that in this show. There's a lot of other frameworks out there and whatnot. Obviously, the rumors are Masai, regardless of who he's trading, is going to be asking for a haul back. Like it was Sharp and the pick, which still might be, a serious consideration. But I find it interesting that, again, with the tendency to, I guess, maybe not be as progressive with moves, this front office seems to have found themselves potentially, at least potentially. I don't know. Maybe it all works out, but possibly a missed opportunity. We will find out very soon. But it could have been a missed opportunity if that's the direction that they wanted to go for a cheaper amount of asset base going out than what we thought. I found it very interesting that the finals were happening. They were one game away from elimination. And again, one of these days I have to have with you guys talk about the new CBA and its implication because it's very fascinating. But you're one game away from winning the NBA finals and you make a trade to bolster your roster during that time. That is incredible. That is progressive move making. Beyond thoughts.
I mean, I'm not much of a poker player, but I know enough in this case when I see someone's looking to fold. Okay, the Raptors aren't making a trade. Okay, pretty much Portland says, "Show me your cards," and they pretty much said, "It's fun in this case. Here, it's been fun, boys. Let me pack up my bundle." Nothing's going on, folks. There's no trade for the Raptors trading up the top 3 pick because, as Coach said, they're not trading Siakam, and I get Portland's rationale behind it because if I had to pair up Lillard, who's the most natural player that will be paired with Lillard? If you had to think of all the players that we talked about, Beal, Bi, even to some extent Zion. And
I
not
was going
saying
to say Zion is very interesting there.
yeah, like Zion obviously is the best player of any of the players that we talked about. But I'm not sure if you talk about a natural pairing with Lillard. Siakam's probably the most natural fit of all the guys we're talking about. And so
Yeah.
I get the rationale, but I don't see it happening. And I think at this point here, the Raptors, there's a lot of things happening. This is where this part of the time the draft is always interesting because everyone's agendas are like 100 at this point, right?
Yep.
You got basketball presidents in this case got their things, and the franchises. You have certain media members, guys have their little agendas, and then you also have players and agents in this case here. I mean, the Scoot Worldwide Tour has been interesting this week, man. I mean, I seen Scoot everywhere, okay? I mean, I seen Scoot as much as I seen my family this week. I seen Scoot here and warm up, Scoot here chatting here with Steph, Scoot here doing this and that. They got all sorts of
Tribune. And it wasn't just like it wasn't a written thing. It was like a full on like photo shoot and thing and a video.
Yeah, the Scoot era has begun, boys. No matter what team it is, begun officially, and they are making sure they're trying to guarantee they will be the second pick of the draft. They are
also, Wemby has not done so well in the French playoffs.
No, it's interesting. He said he's not going to be playing in this case summer league too. They got some folks there scratching their heads like, let me get this straight. LeBron and Kobe, all these dudes decided to do so. You're not playing summer league?
Now, granted, I will say it might be because he's going to probably play for Team France.
I agree with that.
I'll cut him. We'll cut him some slack, people, because I don't think LeBron was playing Team USA for his first year.
Right, but I think there is already a little bit like, So that's all I'm pointing out here about that. However, yeah, the Scoot campaign has been strong this week. And they're definitely trying to save from the Scoot camp. They bring in Steph. You know, like wrestling in this case, you're bringing someone else to help you out as far as this, like a manager or something like that. They give you the rub, right? Some old star to give you the rub. So they bring Steph out here to give the rub to the new guy. They're doing all of it.
Man or something.
Right, exactly. They kind of make sure we want to be number 2. We want to be guaranteed this is the dude you need to trade for. Right? Because I think the two things they're looking at is, one, obviously from the money standpoint, they want to be the second pick and the ego standpoint. 2, they know in this case, if they can get a trade for one of the teams that we're talking about, I think Scoot would prefer any of those options to play in Charlotte.
To be honest, yes. I mean, there's we don't have the time to get into it, and then we probably won't get into it in full. But you did hear a certain not the non-Mikal Bridges has been reinstated essentially, and announced that he's coming back. So Charlotte is going to do Charlotte things.
Well, I mean, they're in an awkward spot because it's like, I mean, you eat the contract, the man's 20 plus a game. They don't
Yeah.
fall off the trees. The quote Latrell Speedwell, they don't fall off a tree.
I mean, it's you know what it reminds me of. It's obviously slightly different in some ways and in others not. But Antonio Brown, whereas
Right.
it's like this dude is like at some points even beyond the off court
Yeah.
terrible things that he allegedly did. Um, you know, it's like this dude literally on court or on field was leaving a game in the middle of the game, but it's like, oh, but he's so talented, we have to give him a chance. And it's
Right.
like at some point, it's
And
like,
this is where
oh
management and ownership
goodness,
comes into play. And when you have ownership's in flux now, it makes it even more of a dicier situation. So if I'm a
yep,
Scoop, please someone trade for me. SOS signs and flares are going up.
yeah.
Please someone trade for this
He
man.
looked under the hood, didn't like, nah,
No,
Emperor has no clothes. I'm
no.
good.
But I'll say this though, like
Mm-hmm.
with the new rumors that are coming out, Pascal Siakam is so disrespected around the league, it's unbelievable. Like people are trying to put him in the same category with Ingram and Zion. Let me give you some context here. It's 4 years Zion's played 100 plus, just over a hair over 100 games in 4 years. Brandon Ingram this year, and I know this gets used on my fantasy basketball team, did not play very much. Siakam,
Bad pick, man.
all stars, two-time All NBA. He's an Iron Man. This guy plays all the time, right?
And he plays both.
Siakam, and so Siakam, if I'm Portland, and you're serious about pairing him with a star, you better be going after Siakam. If I'm Portland,
Yep.
it ain't Ingram. It's not Zion.
Well,
Can't trust the body.
it's funny. It's actually gone. It went so far that it almost started to go the other way, where Kevin O'Connor had to come out and be like, he's actually seriously underrated, guys. And then
100%.
I believe I want to say Nate Johnson or whatever, but this guy represents Dame somehow, and he was basically like, I'm seeing Portland fans not know what they're talking about, and he's basically saying like, you guys do realize Siakam's the best dude out there, right? Like, again, with Zion, I'm not even going to talk about the more recent stuff, but it's like the fact that dude can't like. There was someone, I want to say a Twitter account that started and looking at his bad fits on the bench because he's on the bench so much, and they realized how bad his fashion was. Like it's just like the dude cannot stay healthy. And even beyond that, it's like what Siakam did in that Nick Nurse. I mean, I'm not trying to make this like a Siakam channel. I'm not trying to do that. I know that there are channels that cover players and make their whole thing about a player, right? I don't want to do that. But I do find it very interesting that it's like, I mean, I gave you the numbers the other day and it was like, off the top of my head, I think it was like either 93 or 95 percentile overall as an offensive impact in that Nick Nurse offense with zero spacing, basically.
Coach's point, man. Like, I mean, the all infirmary team, you got to add Bradley Beal to that group as well, too, right? Like, he doesn't play.
Him too, and very expensive contract with, by the way, 14% trade kicker if he gets traded, unless he's willing to waive that 14%. Which if I was him, I wouldn't.
Boy, tell you, man.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
a bad management in the NBA, boy. Holy smokes! Like, I get you want to resign the dude, but you're giving the trade kicker too. Like, really?
Yeah,
like,
it's no trade clause and a 14% no trade kicker.
Like, what is this, LeBron? Like, come on, man.
And by the way, without the trade kicker that end year, Dame's is what, 60 or 62? His is 57. Add 14% onto that, people. It's going to be more than Dame's.
Too, like Portland was trying to do a change in ownership. I mean, I know Phil Knight got real deep pockets, but I don't think he want to go that deep.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Dame has to switch to Nikes at that point.
That's not Nike's to sell more to make up that money, man.
Because he's an Adidas guy, so maybe that's the sell. Hey, we'll get you who you want, but you got to switch, please.
Really, what Portland should be doing is trading Dame.
Oh, I thought you were going to say switch everyone to Nikes.
Maybe that too, but 2 years left, probably at what you have with Dame. And you got Scoop in the draft, who a lot of people say is basically generational. If you believe that,
Baby Miller.
if you want to buy the, I don't know, the what's the word I'm looking for? If you're buying the Kool-Aid about Scoot, if he's generational, you could have him and Sharp for the next 12 years.
Yeah.
That's fun to watch. I think the other thing too is like the other part of that is Dame kind of gave him a bit of an olive branch. I mean, he had the interview about a couple of weeks ago where he literally mentioned teams.
Well, and it's, did you notice that that podcast came at the second they said that they weren't going to trade Sharp? The next day, Dame comes out and he's just like, "Hey, you know." I don't think. By the way, people, I don't think that they're going to trade Dame. They're giving almost every indication that they're not going to trade Dame. There's a chance they do, and I agree that they probably should consider trading Dame. But for whatever reason, they want to. I mean, I understand he's a very talented player, but I think that he might be staying there.
I'm not trying to make this in this case like a Trailblazers, podcast in this case, or But let me throw this out at you two for a second. Would the team, if the team, let's put it this way, if you were to trade Dame to Brooklyn, and you guys could pick whatever trade you want, let's assume Bridges is not coming back in that trade, right? And let's assume it's everybody else is in play. So take your pick of whoever you want coming back the other way. Would you not think that Portland team, and then you draft Scoot in this case, right? Would you not think that team would actually win more games than the team they actually had this year?
The problem with the sorry, Coach.
sorry, kid.
No, go for it. Go.
I'm with you, Coach. I just cracked out. You said it so definitively, but I think so too.
No, but think what you can get back from Brooklyn. All those picks that they got from Durant, you can get some of those. You can get Cam Johnson. You can probably get the Thomas kid, Cameron Thomas. You can probably get there's 3 or 4 guys who can legitimately play in the league that you can get along with those picks, and you're building and you're kind of set for the next 3 to 4 years just on growth and development and picks. And you might not be quite as competitive next year, but the years after that, you get a chance to be real good.
Yeah, I mean, the one challenge that I was going to say is the Cam Johnson thing, because he's a free agent. That makes that a challenge. But they still have a lot of assets, and he might be okay with going there as long as he's getting paid, because I mean he's a free agent. So there might be something there that is very interesting. Maybe I keep mentioning the Orlando Magic. If they want a guard and they really want to go for it, I don't know how many of Chicago's picks that they have left, but they have 2 picks in this year's draft. They also have some like a plethora of young players and contracts and stuff. OKC's probably not the right fit.
Can I go back to Orlando for a second?
Yeah.
I think Orlando needs more, man. I think there's a 2-step process if you're gonna try to trade for Dame.
What about Atlanta then?
They have assets.
What about Trae Young as the main piece outgoing from their side? I know Atlanta fans may, but like they keep talking about the business of it. Dame comes with that star power.
Aren't they similar players though, to a degree?
Except that Dame can actually shoot.
Yeah, but Trae's about 10 years younger.
Yeah. Sorry?
Probably a better passer.
Trae?
Trae is. So.
Yeah. I think Trae's a more natural, better passer.
He's probably a better passer, yeah. Definitely for lob passes, especially.
They both can't defend.
Yeah, exactly. It's going like, it just feels like just a lateral move.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying. The Dame trading for Dame is challenging.
It is,
because it's a lot of money, He's a very talented player, but it's like because of the amount of money that in terms of salary that you have to build up to get him, you're essentially doing almost like a KD trade from a salary standpoint where you're gutting your team. You will not have much of a bench for most teams.
And this is the reason why I always get nervous about trading for guards as franchise players, right? Because he's so used to having the ball in his hand. So any team he goes on, how is that?
He's stepping in and he's
right.
like, I need to be the guy.
Yeah,
like he's not going to be some off-ball guard.
No,
he can play that way, and I think
but he's not going to play that way. So like it makes it does. There's not a lot of teams he fits with in this case. I mean, there's one team I can see he fit with pretty well. If you want to go swing for the fences in this case, that's probably Philadelphia.
That is interesting. Now they'd have to be willing to give up 2 players, at least one from a salary standpoint, which I don't think that they care about. The other one would be Maxey. That would be a sneaky dark horse team.
Tobias Harris is out the door, and you bring back Damian wherever filler.
Yeah, not to completely turn this into a non-Raptors, but again, it is basketball rewind, people. But since we are here, I think so that's the Beal fit is also very weird, because I could see Portland going to him, but the latest rumors are his market is kind of depressed and not as high as they thought it would be, which I'm not shocked by based on that salary and stuff like that. But and the no trade clause and the 14% trade kicker. But I think the other thing with Beal is that if you were to say pair those two together, isn't it basically the same thing that you had before?
And before that?
True. And before that, it's like, so, do you really need to do the Mama's Boys 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever? Like, I don't think that that's a good idea. So even Beal, the interesting player that could be had, even from a Raptors perspective, although I don't know if the Raptors would make this type of move, might be going for a Zach LaVine in a Fred Gary sign and trade or something like that. That's potentially interesting. I don't think that they would do that. But Zach LaVine is also being floated out on the market, and I'm curious to see where he ends up too. But just because of the youth, he might be. The other guys. Oh, right.
And he's been rumored with Minnesota as well too. I mean, with Portland.
Yes. So there's a number of Ayton. Like, you just go down the line, and there's going to be a lot of moves made. If it may not be by the Raptors.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to jump too far, but let's get into this other part you mentioned, this other rumor that I want to talk about.
Right.
About these guys here suggesting where they're going to go, right? So let's get to that point.
Yeah, sorry, we went way off.
Sorry about that. This is actually the more interesting discussion. So the first I'm really hearing about this is when you mentioned it before we started the show.
Yes.
Now, I already made my point about young fellas, man. We're wise, man. Play it close to the vest when we get close to draft time. Don't say things like this. That's my first thing. A little PSA. But second part about it is, it tells me a little bit, if the insights are right, is we do know that Masai, man, you ain't fooling nobody. You need a guard, okay? You're not fooling anybody. You're trying to play, if we have to, we'll choose a guard. No, dude, you need a guard. Because at least one, if not two, are going out the door. You need a guard. Third part about it is, it tells me, at least, it seems like the Raptors seem to have potentially one of 3 players seem to be in the mix for the Raptors. It seems like Buffkin seems to be in play. George seems to be in play. Wallace seems to be in play. Because all of them lead to me, and all roads lead back to Toronto. So, and then what we discussed prior to the pod is that if those dudes get picked beforehand, that means likely Grady's the one that's dropping. And when I see how this is playing out, he's the guy's going to feel the wrath of it.
Which you're okay with.
I'm not losing right, which also said in the rumors they'd be willing to pick him. You're damn right. You better be willing to pick him.
You would hope so.
You would hope so, but sorry.
Before that shooting makes you allergic, man.
Oh, man.
I know, Coach. I mean, your thoughts on this, man, is right up your alley, this type of talk, man. So.
Well, I mean, the agents are just working for their clients. They're trying to get them to a spot where they want to go, get the money. That's what this is about, I think. And kind of like what you said about the fit. I've been on here and I've been on the To the Point podcast where I've said I have a tier one of prospects. Three of them are guards. One of them is a forward. The other guard is probably more a two guard, which is George. But Bufkin and Wallace, they fit what we need. Even Nick Smith fits kind of what we need. He's not in my tier one, but he kind of falls a little bit into that category as well. And I think now that teams are seeing him more healthy in the workouts, because he wasn't healthy all year, they're like, okay, maybe we saw what we saw in high school from him, because he's the number two rated prospect going into college. But with Bufkin, so I'll say specifically Bufkin, what he has that the other guards don't have is that with the combine measurements, he's 6'4.5", like barefoot. So he's
We saw
standing
him
six.
standing next to SGA.
Shea, who's like 6'6". So
I thought George is legit 6'4" too.
George is
so,
about
yes.
6'3", but Bufkin's bigger than both of them, and he's like point guard. So when Jonathan Gavoni mentioned about his stock going up, like I tweeted today, I could see Bufkin going as high as 8, 8 to 15. He's got to go somewhere in that range.
Now this gets fascinating. Now Bufkin kind of gave away the game a little bit. Bufkin in this case is a true, I guess, what you want to consider a true point guard. In other words, he has to have the ball in his hands. Now looking at the roster of the Raptors, and Scotty's thinking like, well, Fred's at the door now. I finally kind of get to do my thing. And now you're having a point guard come in and saying, hey, man, I'm going to be the starting point guard.
I mean, even people who are saying Miller, which I'm not necessarily advocating for Miller myself, but Miller's saying I'm a point guard too.
Well, yeah. Brandon Miller could just kind of like just hope that he gets drafted high enough. He needs to kind of chill out. But yeah. Bufkin's point, but Bufkin's come in there and he's of all the players that are kind of in that range, he's the one to me needs the ball the most, and that to me makes things a bit of a lot of chefs in the kitchen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kobe Bufkin. We'll start with him. I think that, well, I'll put it to both of the guards that I like. Kobe and Kaysen can both play off ball if needed. I think for Barnes to be a half court creator to a point guard level, to a degree that leads to consistent, impactful winning, to the level that people really, really, truly believe, it's going to take some time. And having another guy that is, I guess, a more natural, has more natural experience in that area, is probably not the worst idea. So if people want, I think that they will, and they probably should still experiment with it a little bit, in my opinion, because I don't think that Barnes has been given a full reign of that. But I also don't think that him initiating the offense has to look like him being a traditional point guard either, if that makes sense. That's what I'll say.
Right. I still point back to what Leo Ratten said at the end of the year. Got to get bigger at the guard position.
Yep.
With Kaysen, you get that. There's no question. With Nick Smith, you get that. Bufkin's probably the tallest of the three, so you're definitely getting that component from him. And just there's no major weaknesses in his game at all. His offense looks solid. His defense looks good. Great form that he has. Good length. So Masai's not fooling anybody. League knows we need a guard. Like Beyond said, if Grady falls to us though, with Grady it's about fit, and he could be a terrific fit next to Scotty and Pascal with that beautiful shooting form that he has, and that potential 40 to 43% from three that we so desperately need. And once again, you take Grady, that moves Scotty to point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting to see how this playing out. I think Grady's stock might be a little soft right now.
Yep.
I think he's, if you had to think of the guys that might drop a little bit of the top 10, he's probably one of them.
Yeah.
That's a Grady.
Yeah. I was gonna say Richard, so hey people, we gotta have a little fun here.
Family show, people. It's a family show.
But yeah, I do think that his stock has dropped a little bit. On that note, is there any? I think that covers all of the basic rumors. Is there anything else before we, or you know what? Let's just jump right into it. Draft boards. 4 guys in our range. I think I already know at least 2 of the guys or 3 of the guys, but 4 guys in our range. Where would you rank them? Let's hear the names. You can give a 5th if you want as well.
Go ahead, Coach.
So you want to list my tier one guys? Where
if you had a big board and you were writing it up on the big board in the war room right now, and but it's guys in our range because obviously Wemby and Scoot.
So
and stuff like that,
on the top of my big board of my 4, it's probably Kaysen. He's probably at the top of my big board. I'm gonna say Grady would probably go 2. George would be 3, and he's still my selection because I think Kaysen and Grady are going to go before 13. And I think it could come down to George and Buffkin, and now, as of recent, Bilal. I think he's going to be there in our range. And I know he's not in my big 4, but I gotta list him. Most Raptors prospect ever.
Well, and not wait, and not
the side drink. Get y'all drinking the Kool-Aid again.
No. I would. No.
No. Last 24 hours been tough for the GG camp.
It's been tough.
Rough.
Exactly.
Okay,
but hey, big time talent. He's still a big time talent, but there's some question marks there that have come out recently.
Don't let Coach get a 2nd round pick, though. Don't let Coach get.
Yeah, don't give him.
I've heard he might go. The Celtics have been being rumored several times.
I just think with George though, there's a fit there that makes sense with Scotty and Siakam. I think too, it's the ceiling. I like his ceiling. I have to agree with Beyond on that one as well. Like when this guy was healthy, he was really good. And we don't have a player like George on this team. And what you got from Gary Trent, there's no reason why you can't get that from him, except with more passing, more or less.
Absolutely.
Better athlete too.
And Beyond?
Here's some of the similar names. I think, I've been going back for it, but I think at this point here in my big board, I have George as 1 now. I think I had Wallace for a while as 1. I think I have George 1 now. I think I've been, as the last week, I think I'm like, you know what? Yeah, George is the guy for me more. So Wallace would probably be 2. I think after that, and they're kind of almost like a mini tier of their own. And then below them, I think, and Grady will come 3rd at this point here. Then Buffkin. And if I had to get a 5th guy, if I'm looking at it as a 5th guy right now, the 5th guy, I don't really care for him at all. But I don't even know if there's really a 5th guy out there jumping out at me that I say, you know what, that's the guy. I don't like, because a lot of the guys I did like are kind of dropping pretty hard right now. So yeah, there's not really. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking because I'm not a big fan of Nick Smith. Really, I just can't get myself even.
Some people really are, and I understand it, but I still maintain if a guy struggles to, if a guy settles a lot early on, and yet he has the tools and he's creating spaces for that he doesn't need to settle, that is concerning. There's times when he had an open lane, and I don't think he had to settle, and he did.
Let me flip it this way, then. Let me throw it this way. I was saying this is a possibility, as strange as it might sound, but I'll take the 2 guys I mentioned before, and then the 3rd guy I would take is Hendricks, then Grady, then Buffkin. And there is a world where Hendricks could drop.
Absolutely.
He has dropped a little bit as
Yeah.
well in some mocks as well.
Yeah.
Not quite to us, but I can see it because I mean you're already hearing. We didn't talk about this rumor, but the Dallas rumor where they're
Mhm.
looking to obviously trade out. What is interesting to me, yeah, what's interesting to me is this: if you go back to our first draft talk, the reaction after the lottery, that has aged so well because all of the teams that we talked about that would be interested in potentially trading, they're all talking now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Everyone's
that's
in
interesting.
denial or holding their powder pretty much till after they see where they're gonna where the ping pong balls drop. And once everyone knew where the balls were gonna drop, like okay, now we can start kind of getting serious, right? Because no one's thinking Dallas is making that draft pick for themselves.
No.
There's no way.
No, they're making a deal, and really they should. But also with some of these players that we've mentioned, what you mentioned beyond, you mentioned about Hendricks, Lively could go there. I think he is Tyson Chandler with maybe a jump shot, which is quite intriguing. But also Bilal in the mix too, but somewhere between 12 and 15. Some of these guys are going to have to drop. That could be Anthony Black. That could be, I don't think it's going to be Jerace Walker because he's getting a lot of hype lately the last few
Yeah.
days. They just love the physical comps out there for
Haven't
him.
heard much
But
about Cam Whitmore recently.
No, I noticed that too. He,
yeah,
I mean, heck, we've forgotten about him. He's the last guy you still like. That's what I'm saying. Like he's just been
Sorry.
like, yeah, he's like on AWOL. He's on a milk carton right now. Ain't no one talking about that dude. It's like,
Nope.
I was originally like really, really, and I still am. I think he's a great athlete and
you know,
everything, but like yeah, like he's just disappeared. You didn't hear nothing about him.
like so, like him or Hendricks could be out of the top 10. Like, and then it gets interesting. Like, what do you do with a Cam Whitmore if he's
If
sitting there?
if he was there at your spot, if he dropped all the way, would you take him over some of your others or no? I think that's an interesting
That's
kind
an
of.
interesting thing. I think if it's Wallace or George, I don't think I would.
Mhm.
I think when we get now and say for Hendricks, I don't think I would either.
What about the other two guards, Buffkin or
I think for Buffkin, yes, I would take him over Buffkin.
but not Wallace?
No,
Okay.
no, because it's the
that's
ceiling.
it. Yeah, that's very interesting though, because I mean Whitmore has been mocked as high as
Six.
4
Or
to
yeah.
Houston, 4, 5, 6. If you fall to 13, it's almost like the OG scenario. He was mocked in the top 7 or 8 before he tore his ACL. He falls to the Raptors at like 23 or whatever that
Yeah.
year's like.
Well, Keontae George is falling into that pattern. That's the point. I mentioned on our podcast.
That's
Like, yeah, his fortunes, our fortunes, seem to be almost in line. When we were
Mhm.
looking at the top 6 or 7 pick, when we were going nowhere, he was at that point. And then once the injury happened, he fell back to where he is now, which is around our area now. So I don't know. Maybe we're meant to be. I don't know, but it seems like every time we move somewhere, he seems to be the guy showing up around that neighborhood.
I just don't trust our front office to select him. I'm not saying that they're so wrong if they don't select him, but he just doesn't fit what they typically do.
He's too
That's
polished.
No,
my thing.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to turn it into the whole like a breakdown about him right now
Yeah,
because we're
yeah.
gonna.
No,
But he's. I think you can make it work, but he does need some work. But I do think his shooting is not quite as bad as people think. I think it's actually decent, especially in catch and shoots. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah,
Wide open
um,
that is unbelievable. If he does nothing else, he did that the way he did in college.
yes,
A plus for this team already.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Well, exactly right. Like he was, I think 82nd percentile for that,
like
and
yeah,
shot like 35% from three
folks
or
that
something like that.
old. How many times you watch a Raptors game this season and the season before? You saw guys pretty much get etch their own signature on the basketball before they shot and inside the backboard. Please, if he did nothing else but that, we are winners. Okay.
Yes, yes. But yeah, so on that note, it's been a good episode. Thank you for joining me for all of the episodes that you guys have thus far, and hope we have additional ones to go to. So with that being said, again, do you guys have anything real quick to plug? If not, we're just gonna close it out, say peace, and that's all. Because I think on the last one we thanked firefighters and stuff like that, which is always important. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything that you guys want to plug.
6 days, 20 hours, 30 minutes, 15 seconds, and counting until the draft.
When this is
As we
filmed.
are as we are recording this, I want to be clear about that. So yes,
Because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get this out. Like,
yeah, right after. No, it's an exciting time for us fans who like the draft. The Raptors are in a good position with the 13th pick as well. And look, they want to move up, they can. They want to
Absolutely.
move back if they feel they need to make an additional trade.
Don't do it.
Okay, no, don't do it. Don't do it. If they want to get multiple picks by moving back a few spots, yes, they could. They're in a good spot. Is what I'm saying at 13.
Hey man, as Coach said, man, it's a fun time. What with sports fans, the draft means hope, and appropriate in this case of who's hosting. In this case, it's hope. And when it's all said and done, that's what makes it fun, man. So enjoy it. Happy NBA draft time, man. Enjoy the moment, folks. For the most part, I think the Raptors are gonna be all right, man. They should come up with a pretty good player this same time next week.
I'll say this: Masai said that he was going to treat the roster evaluation similar to the coach evaluation, which could mean that it could be taking a while, but he did say that he was going to be thorough. So I hope that he comes to and look at the fit of different guys on the roster and stuff like that. I hope that they are seriously looking at that and taking that seriously, and I hope that they've been looking at that so that when the time comes for the draft and free agency, they're not left looking for a pair of suspenders as their pants have fallen. So with that being said, it's been fun. Like, comment, and subscribe. And it's been good. And again, to the next 100 subscribers, exciting. Take care, everyone, and peace. And if I don't see your comment between now and draft day, happy draft day. So yeah, bye.